Hello and welcome to this episode of Bonfireside Chat. Thank you very much for joining us. This show, like all of our shows, is brought to you by the fine backers of Patreon at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Come join the fun, join us on Slack. It's super cool. And on to your PvP stories. There are a lot of good ones in there.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is a Ganker's favorite.
Yep. And this week, it's kind of a first. This is the first appendix for a special that we've done. We are reading your PvP stories.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys came out in force, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Really do appreciate it. And this is kind of a weird, everyone's got PvP stories, and we haven't really had a venue for them.
No, it just is. I kind of like to include at least one or two like notable PvP kind of stories within an individual area. But I'll admit to a prejudice, Gary. I sometimes look at PvP stories like it's somebody either
describing a dream,
describing a dream, or like a hunting story kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But man, there's some really funny stuff going on here, and I hope that we can do them justice.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go ahead and get started here with Michael. Michael says, I don't PvP very much in Souls games, but Dark Souls 3 left me with a great anecdote. Back when I started the game, I didn't know what the dried finger actually did. I bought and used it. Shortly afterwards, I was double invaded by a couple of players named Garl and Estrella. Garl came after me while Estrella just spammed the prey gesture. Garl eventually fell in combat. The good maiden promptly got up and ran off the nearest cliff. Yay! When we talked about other special episodes we want to do, and the reason why we haven't announced this is because I haven't lined up a guest, but I really want to do something that addresses humor and kind of gimmicks in the series, because it's such a big part of it, and has been for the whole thing, or like jokes, kind of joke invasions, these kind of theme things that are my favorite part of PvP.
Oh yeah.
We didn't, really address it very much in the last episode, but we did a little bit with like kind of the RP aspect to it. And I love this. If I'm going to get invaded and it's somebody being goofy, that's the best possible thing.
Just inject a little bit of chaos and whimsy into my world. That's that's a part of it that I appreciate the most, which makes me a normie, I suppose.
Well, it's the I think that it is the exact my instincts that hate, Fox only, Final Destination, no items. This is a fucking video game. Like, it just, I don't know. The more goofiness you can add to it equals more fun for me.
Yeah. And there's something amazing about kind of the limited palette that people have in order to kind of make this stuff happen. There are only so many different combinations you can make, and then just kind of like, oh, we're just going to be Garl this time because they have this hammer and this armor. So let's just fucking go for it.
And it's a lot of work too to make these jokes pay off, because you have to build up the character. You have to you name them from the beginning. You have to get the stats to use all this equipment. You have to get to a PvP, get to the meta. So there's a lot, these are long jokes, and I really appreciate that. Like, a lot of work went into these things.
Yeah.
So
Lucas writes in saying, something I've taken to doing in Souls is dressing as much like an NPC as possible, even down to the name of my character and invading in the same spot over and over. The gimmick worked most of the time until a week into Dark Souls 3's release, where I recognized after the third invasion that the same guy and his two phantoms were farming me, just like the NPC I was. My other story involves your favorite location, Smoldering Lake. I had 3 buds summoned because seriously, fuck this place. And the one who had already cleared the area was showing me where the Demon King was. Suddenly, 2 red phantoms invade. Cue a mad dash between Crabulons, a sandworm, and giant arrow shots and red invaders. Like a bad movie, one of my friends stayed behind to fend them off while I made to the door. No, you go ahead. I'm just going to slow you down. That's me editorializing. R.I.P. Pete. Godspeed, Pete.
Rest in Pete.
Yep. And then an addendum here. I died on the Demon King anyway, so he got to rejoin us after.
Yeah. It's like the that's the thing Peeve mentioned about the Blue Sentinels, where you get to kind of make that heroic self-sacrifice. You get to have those hero moments, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's really great. being farmed. We talk a lot about people being harvested in our shows, but I guess farming them is the same kind of thing.
I think you would ranch people, you farm plants, but you ranch animals.
So you don't harvest people?
You call people.
Call people? Okay,
Yeah.
I think I like harvest more.
I think you harvest parts of them because they grow the parts, especially if they're
harvest
Prometheus.
the parts, you call the people.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Let's we'll get a style guide.
Gary, if you
for the tooth farm we're going to open.
The tooth farm. We've established the idea of a tooth lawyer. I don't know about a tooth farmer.
Oh, well, like it's like a children's book series, a full group of tooth professions.
Yeah, it's people who have kind of like found it's kind of like Punch Drunk Love, except the loophole isn't with pudding; it's with the tooth fairy.
Yeah, exactly. You just keep getting quarters because there's only one place on Earth you can get unlimited supply of teeth, and that's a garden of people that breed and make new babies that grow teeth. Like if you want teeth, you have to make people.
Yeah, if they want to get
I want teeth, baby.
If they want to get out of the compound, they just have to give you their teeth.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 20 tooth bowl where you face escape orbs.
I just finished season 1 of True Detective.
Oh, sure.
And so this whole idea is kind of darkly resonant with me right now.
That the finale is great.
That's so good.
That last episode is really phenomenal.
That Civil War fort. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's real. Like you can go visit that, and that's real good and spooky.
Yeah.
And that actor is really great too.
Oh
yeah. That wasn't too spoilery.
No.
We just know that there's a tooth farm involved.
Yep.
All right. The Garrett says via contact. So picture this. It's 4/20/2016, and I'm running through Fair and Keep when I see that I'm getting invaded. I panic for a second before I see the invader wearing a mix of Heisels and the Abyss Watcher armor, and his name is something like XX Blazebro 420XX, and I prepare for a fight. However, he puts away his weapons. Confused, I put mine away as well, and he begins to stuff his face with green herbs. I could tell by the green glow. And then he did the lay down gesture and disconnected. While not really PvP, it's good to know that there's someone out there in the Souls community who's all for Lothric legalizing blazing the dank herb. Yep.
Yep. That's again, just kind of like back to see the first response over and over again. Like anything like that. Like just the commitment to that bit.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Because he had to plan that was on a specific day that worked. So he had to, start getting ready at least a couple days before.
Yeah. Or at least just stock up. Maybe XX Blazebro 420XX was just his name, because I've seen that name.
Oh, sure.
So
the most popular Christian baby names 2016.
Yep. Yeah, it's Jacob, Hezekiah,
Blazeblow, and then Blazebro.
No,
and then the girl version, Blaze Blouse. 420 XX. Chromosome.
Mitch writes in saying, "It all started with the bane of my existence, the Aldrich faithful. After so many wasted deaths at their hands, I vowed to go to any length just to destroy them. I spent so much time hunting its apostles down, one by one, until one time I stumbled upon something different. The ring outside the pontiff's church was filled with red, blue, and purple alike, and they beckoned me. Come fight. Well, a few matches wouldn't hurt me. I said. A mere hours of fighting prior. It changed me. Every victim was a fix. I wasn't happy until my Fume Knight Ultra Greatsword was lodged into some poor soul's sternum. And after a while, even that wasn't enough. I did only what made sense at the time. I joined the Aldrich Faithful. It was my rage that made me become the monster that I had vowed to stop."
All right. Yeah.
Yep. Well, it makes sense. Popular PvP area. That's where I did most of mine.
Yeah, look not into the void. That's how that expression goes. The it is fun to murder people in the game when it works. Like I think that clicked for me hardest in Dark Souls 1, but there's a little bit of I got here. I haven't done. I didn't win very often.
No.
In this game, I found it. Just in general, like pretty hard.
Yeah. I just kind of reframed it, I try and be a giving person when I can, sometimes you fall down, but, so even if I didn't win, I provided an easy win for somebody else. Maybe that person needed it that day,
Yeah. The one time, or when I was doing it, whenever I would heal, because it's a hard reflex to give up, I recognize, like, maybe you're not supposed to if you're invading, but I would do it anyway. The other person would do the clap emote, and that made me mad. It was like legitimately pretty irritating.
That's kind of funny.
It's definitely funny, but it's like, and he was lightning quick on that clap emote too, like just like faster than I am. Like they're just like, oh, okay.
He was playing on PS4 and like he somehow got the motion control to work.
What a misguided thing that is. Like the back, it's like the back touch screen thing on the PSP Vita. Like just these features that never got tested, that no one's ever used for anything like successfully. Like that's so bad. It just means you accidentally gesture.
Yep.
Sometimes. Tom says via contact. I didn't have much luck in Dark Souls 3 PvP until I joined the Forest Covenant. It seemed to be the only chance you ever had not to be on the receiving end of a 3 versus 1 scenario. The fights were always hectic. Red, purple, blue, gold, and white phantoms converging all at once. I even won a string of 6 battles in a fight club once. But the best times I ever had as an invader all came when I still ended up in a 3v1 battle as a forest protector. The host and his Sunbro goons made short work of the common enemies in the area as I tried skirting them through the forest, taking pot shots when I could, praying for backup. But the backup never came, and soon I was being Benny Hill chased around near the ladder to the swamp. Finally, in desperation, I started down that long ladder and was elated when the host made a running swing to catch me on my descent, plummeting to his death. I had myself a good laugh and discovered a beautiful cheese-covered tactic for dealing with foes in the future. Since then, I've knocked phantoms into that little hole, or punched host until their purchase on the ladder slipped, or pulled the original recipe bait and switch by climbing down the ladder at the right moment more times than I can count. My character killed more enemies with what was effectively the Dark Souls 1 equivalent of a banana peel, or not Dark Souls 1, just Dark Souls equivalent of a banana peel, than any sword or axe I've ever brandished. That's a lot of broken necks for a ring that doesn't do anything.
See, this is how I can tell I'm not made of the right stuff to really kind of like take this seriously, because the stories of these kind of like cheese things, it would be frustrating to be on the receiving side of it, but like I just want as much of this to happen as possible. Like
yes.
it's the one place where like the Kantian imperative falls down. Like just okay, if everybody did this, it would suck, but just hearing about it is funny. Like just this one time.
Yeah.
Or however many times this person did it.
It's also the goofy stuff doesn't feel like it doesn't feel get good. Like to me, it's just kind of like, oh, these are just like goofy accidents that can happen. It's not just about honing yourself into a perfect weapon kind of thing, which is sometimes tedious,
right?
To hear about, I think, or to talk about. And that all for a ring that does nothing point is kind of interesting. We haven't talked about Covenant rewards really,
right?
In the series, and it's because I've never been able to like give a shit.
Right.
About them. Even ones I kind of want, I'm still not really going to grind out. Like, I'm not going to grind in these games. I'm not going to farm. It's part of the reason why blood vials suck so bad.
Right.
Is it just that's contrary to how I want to play these games. So people, I've heard these horror stories of people just engaging in PvP literally as a chore.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm going to walk away from my computer, hope the host dies enough times to just environmental hazards that like I can come back in 9 hours with all of the things I need to exchange it for a sword I'm probably not going to use.
Right.
I'm just never going to do that. So there is an interesting, it kind of goes back to what we were playing in the episode where you have to do it for the love of what it is. They've never done a good job of incentivizing it or rewarding it.
And this just shows how little attention that I pay to achievements and stuff like that. Like when it pops up, Yahtzee. But like, it seems to me that there are not as many achievements that are tied specifically to like getting every of a kind of sword. Kind of like what would make people tear their hair out trying to cut off all the tails in, Dark Souls 1 or, any number of things that you had to do multiple playthroughs in order to get. Like, is there anything besides a desire for completion, which I understand it is a thing, it exists, that is kind of driving people to go towards that? Because specifically you hear horror stories about farming the proof of a Concord capped, getting the ears from the Silver Knights and stuff like that. Like, what are they getting if the ring doesn't do anything or the sword doesn't do anything, unless they're going for a specific build?
Yeah, I don't know, just the satisfaction of doing it, just completionism.
Yeah,
I think that's really it
because it's there.
Yeah, no, which is fine. I mean, I don't mean to sound too like that's not how I play it, and I
no, I'm not
don't necessarily understand it. Like it doesn't. I don't think it means you're bad.
Yeah, if somebody told me to do it, I'd say no.
Yeah,
but if somebody's doing it,
excuse me. Yeah, no, fuck you. Yeah.
I'm not going to say fuck you if they're doing it.
Yeah, if somebody tells me they do it, it's not fuck them.
No,
not for me.
Yep. Lachlan writes, the weirdest thing about Dark Souls 3 PvP to me is that the meta for the first few months was influenced to a silly degree by the whole poise controversy. It seems like everyone convinced themselves that without traditional poise, heavy weapons and armor were not viable. I was oblivious to this, though, and was playing with the Fume Greatsword and the Black Iron Greatshield. I'm not good at PvP in any Soulsborne games, but I was wrecking people in the first few months that DS3 was out. On a couple occasions, I managed to kill entire fight clubs, and it's not as hard as it sounds when you knock everyone down with everything while they're just poking at you with rapiers. But the funniest part was that on multiple occasions, I got messages from people that I'd beaten who were angry that I was using a build that they were sure wasn't viable. Stuff like, you can't use great swords, idiot, there's no poise. It seemed like people decided that I was playing wrong by using a weapon that they had all agreed was bad. It was like a social experiment where people weren't able to change their minds about an idea, even when they're literally being beaten with evidence to the contrary.
End gatekeeping in games 2016.
Yep. Stop it.
Stop doing that. It's not up to you to tell somebody they're playing a game right or they're not enjoying it the way that they should.
Yep.
That's dumb. Yeah, and it's funny too because the what Lachlan is actually stumbling upon is hyper armor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the reason why that was working so well is because he was on the thing that actually replaced poise. Mm-hmm. You know, and now the meta, and saying the meta when you talk about Dark Souls PvP is confusing because I think the meta in a general term means just kind of the game around the game, but I think in Dark Souls PvP it specifically means the level ranges that are agreed upon. But in the kind of the narrative, the consensus, heavy weapons are kind of like, now it is more like you can do heavy weapons. Mm-hmm. It's come around to where you're at on that because hyper armor is more understood. You can use it more. It hasn't made, rapiers and straight swords unviable. I still see a lot of those in videos that I watch, but it's you kind of stumbled upon what they actually replaced poise with by engaging in the thing that everyone agreed was garbage without it.
Yeah, I mean, just the meta in terms of what is generally agreed upon to be off limits or forbidden. Mm-hmm. Like that seems to make sense, and that's kind of something that I reject. And this is a different game, different time, all of that. I remember playing some kind of like a Half-Life mod, not Team Fortress, but like Action Half-Life or something like that. Which kind of just added a whole bunch of new weapons and kind of like slides and moves. It was like a kung fu movie kind of thing. One of the weapons you could get was like a blunderbuss kind of thing, where it was like a hand cannon. And I was like, oh, this thing is really effective. And I would roll around with it, shooting people. And then people called it, oh, you're using the shit gun or the noob cannon. It's like, well, I'm kind of serving you. So what of it? It's just it's an attitude that I cannot wrap my mind around, but only because I don't feel like trying.
It's a thing where people have to gerrymander rules to make something that they don't like invalid.
Yeah.
Like it's not enough just to people are uncomfortable with subjectivity where they can't just say like, I just don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's shitty to do that. They have to make it somehow like cosmically illegal.
Right. Disqualifying the W.
Yes, in order to have some kind of like authority behind it. Mm-hmm. It's not enough just to say like, oh, you shouldn't play that way because I don't like that.
Yeah, we all agree that you don't play that way.
Exactly. Like it has to be, we have to have some kind of authority behind it to push for it. And it's just so tedious and immature. You have to stop.
And we're saying that as outsiders, just in case anybody feels like we're passing judgment. Like that is just so not for us. And to my mind, that is harming. Like I'm
passing judgment.
Okay.
Like I don't like.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to speak for you there. I just wanted to make sure that we, I don't feel any I'm a well wisher insofar as I don't wish anybody in particular any particular harm. Yeah.
I just think that like there is a place where you can have those kind of rules. Again, when we talked about in the last episode, where like you can have your fight clubs where there are posted rules and there's a contract that's kind of explicit, and if you want that, like find a place where everyone agrees with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like if it's in the game, it's fine. And it especially is not a thing like, like Lachlan's story where he was just doing a thing that everyone decided they didn't want him to do.
Right.
But otherwise engaging in the same way in every other respect.
Yeah.
That I will pass judgment on that. And those people who were saying that were morons.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho.
Okay.
Luke says by contact. Dark Souls 3 only introduced the one new covenant, the Mound Builders. I think it's actually Mound Makers. Mound Builders were ancient people in Illinois. But it is my favorite by far, primarily because it changes the goal of the game from victory to fun. Nearly every mound encounter is memorable in one way or another, which is why so many people find themselves drawn towards the purple signs, despite knowing there is no tangible benefit from using them. While the PvE covenants are there to help players push further into the game, and the PvP for the player to prove that they have gotten as good as you can get, this covenant seems specifically designed to seed stories, which is the ideal reward for gameplay in my mind.
Amen.
I guess I should give you a story as an example. I put my sign down in the undead settlement with innocent intentions to try to help players, usually by bringing them interesting enemies that I have gathered through the level so we can then fight together, and found myself faced by a frightened host and two very hostile blues. I don't often win duels, so I bailed to my usual spot on the bridge by the Bull Bros and tried to signal my amiable nature. A long battle endured between them and the enemies, since for some reason they kept aiming all their spells at me, though I had yet to bring out a weapon. When only one enemy remained, I gave a mercy gesture and ran further back. Health bar from far from full, I sat down next to Igon to await my fate. One of the summons swings at me, leaving me almost dead, but I simply sat down again. Before he could swing a second time, the host stopped him, walked over to me, and bowed. This is when I stood up, gave him a little kick, and watched him plummet off the cliff while his two protectors watched on in horror. Oh, for a shrug gesture. I've been on the other end of such encounters. A purple who battled bravely next to me, and a friend in the archives who took his chance when we accidentally got into an elevator alone, and begrudged none of the betrayals because they were also entertaining. It's why why we still love patches. Why be a brave hero or a brutal villain when you can just be a trickster god?
Yeah. This gets at the heart of what I like about multiplayer and Dark Souls. Just like if it gears it towards stories, that is a cool thing. And it doesn't have to be a mound maker thing. Like there are plenty of amazing stories that come out of PvP from across the series, right? Mm-hmm. But like the fact that they have kind of like designed toward that, just by building in this wild card kind of faction, I think that's tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really, really neat. It's the only way it sucks, though. The thing that sucks about it is that because of kind of fight clubs and the like, when you put down your mountain thing, a lot of times you get summoned into fight clubs, or people think you were there because you want a duel, and you're a purple phantom for like color coordination or ease of use, and that happens the further you get into the game. Yeah. So I did all of my fun purple phantoming also in the undead settlement.
Yeah, the settlement is a great place for that stuff.
But by the time you get to Irithyll, people just kind of aren't having it. Mm-hmm. Like that place has like several different just kind of like fight club zones, and getting someone in there, I'm almost always just already watching a fight. Yeah. And like, yes, I can then like pick a side or do a little bit of that chaos, but the story aspect is not there as strong. Yeah.
Yeah. So Gary, when you see a purple summon sign, will you hit that up?
I mean, it depends. Yeah. Like I'm on my third playthrough of the game. I'm playing it for the show. I'm not speed running it, but I'm also like just refreshing my memory.
Yeah, it's for a purpose. Like you're preparing for the
purpose.
show.
I'm not doing it for fun really. So not really. Mm-hmm. On my second playthrough, I did a lot more of that. My completionist playthrough, where I was going to see as many NPC quest lines as possible. I engage in a lot more purple phantoms and occasional red phantoms and the like as well. Yeah. Or red summon signs, just for funzos. Yeah. On this playthrough, I'm kind of got my eyes on the prize. Yeah. I'm just discouraged because my build keeps getting invalidated and
that sucks. Like you're just on this like cascading, like just stair step of like invalidation. That's terrible.
And it's like it's fine. Like right now, the sword I'm using now is fine.
It's just what are you using now?
The Black Blade.
Okay.
The one that you get from the Mimic, the Demon Ruin. So and it's okay. I made the mistake of infusing it with bleed, which I didn't realize, like, there's no reason to ever do that because it ups the bleed, but you can just throw a Karthus Rouge on there. Yeah. Like, the infusion system in this game is kind of rough. Like, there's not a lot of reasons to infuse things. More so than I feel like in other games. Like, that's always been the case. Like, you're almost always better off. But it was a little bit more arguable before. Maybe a fire sword was actually kind of a good idea. Now it feels like it's almost always a bad idea. Yeah. I don't have the numbers to back that up. It's just been my experience. Yeah. So I need to get one of those things that allows me to uninfuse it. Yeah. And then and I'm also out of Pale Tongues. So I made the Demon King Great Axe or Great Hammer. And I'm just going to go back to what I know. I'm going to do a big Smash-alon weapon that gives me hyper armor. I'll stop getting stun locked by rats. This is everything I want. Why would I ever just not use a big fuck off weapon?
Yeah.
But I ran out of pale tongues because I was trying to respec to find something
Yeah.
reasonable. So now I can't respec anymore until I actually invade, which I'm really bad at. So
Yeah.
it's been a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. No, I gravitated back toward, before my build was too entirely locked in, I gravitated toward a greatsword. So I know what
it's
you're
just
saying.
I need poise, man. I need to not get stunned by tiny enemies.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Hate it.
To offer my kind of counterpoint to that, when I see a purple sign, I'm like, fuck, I ain't getting nowhere to be.
Yeah.
I'm already, like, whenever I play for the show, I'm already committed to play for like 2-3 hours as I make notes and stuff. So like the load time gives me a chance to like write stuff down. Yeah. Not the load time, the summon time.
The waiting time. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. That was Luke. Let's go to John, who says, my best PvP invasion stories all happened in the catacombs of Karthus, and my favorite highlight involves the rope bridge and the Firelink greatsword. Did you know that if you use the laying down emote, that people cannot run past you on the rope bridge that leads to Skeletor? Thus, if the host is being chased by about 12 million skeletons, you can make their life really difficult by just laying there. The obscuring ring helps with this devious plan because they won't know that you're laying there until it's too late. But why the Firelink greatsword? That way, if they try to flank up the alternate path, you can lay a fiery slam down on the walkway, often convincing them to roll off the side into the lake below. Maybe that's what happened to Horus. My second favorite invasion spot is the area right between Irithyll and Anor Londo. Pop that untrue white ring on your finest silver knight garb, and your Dragon Slayer greatbow and blend into the crowd, firing arrows at hosts and phantoms who aren't sure what the aggro range of a silver knight is anymore. You're kind of short for a silver knight, but what you lack in height you make up for in knocking people off the side with arrows that they didn't expect, as though you hopped straight out of Dark Souls 1. Overall, I feel like PvP in this game is horribly unbalanced compared to previous installments. The lack of poise, as we knew it, throws everything off. The Darkblade was crazy OP, being a caster is almost completely ineffectual, but I still find ways to get my jollies. By straight up trolling. That's funny.
Yeah. Again, I have no problem with that. There was a time in my life where I would have thought that was bad, and now I think it is good. It's good now.
I mean, it's good because there are so many more bonfires.
It's the consequence are almost nothing.
Right.
Yeah. We didn't mention about how shitty casting, how that's like totally unviable for PvP.
Yeah, like it's just so below kind of just noticing.
Yeah. That sucks. And it's already like not great in PvE, but it really doesn't work for PvP. Like I've read a couple arguments you can use it, but it's almost, the weird thing is you almost entirely use spells just to manipulate movement. Like you just cast spells because they are easy to dodge.
Right. And
you hope that you can get them to dodge in a certain way so you can actually take advantage of it with your actual melee weapon.
Yeah.
Like the actual spell is not going to do jack nothing unless the person you're fighting is very distracted.
Yeah. And I can't say if that is like an objective good or bad thing, but from my standpoint, where variety is a really good thing, again, like let's play a new Borkopolis with all Pokeballs, whatever. Like variety is an incredibly good thing for the entertainment that I personally derive out of this. So losing that vector for just kind of the different number of verbs that people can do feels like a pretty significant loss.
When we talked about from overcorrecting, like the way that and this is a PvE thing too, but magic has been such a huge thing for them. Like they've been since Demon Souls, it feels like they've been so terrified of magic being like a win button, because it is really, really OP in Dark Souls 1, in Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, and then in Dark Souls 2 initially before they buffed or nerfed hexes and stuff. And like, I don't have any problem with that being really powerful.
Right.
It doesn't, at the very least for PvE purposes, and for PvP purposes, they've clearly gone too far if like nobody's doing it.
Right.
You want to see some sorcerers out there. It makes it more fun to fight different kinds of builds.
Yeah. I mean, just I don't know. I want more things to be situationally aware of.
Yeah. And I want to play in a game, like even just narratively, has magicians running around in it. Like I think that's cooler.
Yeah.
For no other reason than I think it's cool.
Yeah. Just flavor reasons.
Yeah. No. Gordon says via contact. I was a hardcore rat bro in Dark Souls 2, so I tried to recreate that experience in Dark Souls 3 by running to Irithyll, popping a seed of the Tree of Giants, putting on a ring of blue, using the dried finger, and finally turning into a statue and laughing my head off while bewildered Dick Wraiths stumbled into the goddamn Thunderdome. This led directly to the most amazing experience I ever had in game when, through judicious use of emotes, I managed to befriend a red phantom, and we set about clearing out Irithyll. I had to explain the situation to the blue phantom who came to save me through furious pantomime, and then the three of us buddied up and carried on. As the three of us passed the second bonfire, the mad phantom appeared at the bottom of the stairs and just stared slack-jawed as we waved jollily at him. After his initial "what the Christ" reaction broke his mind in real life, he realized that life could be gentle and kind. So I added purple to my rainbow boys, and we went back to clear out the cathedral. This was where Red was struck down by the defenders. Blue tried to run back to the body to mourn and avenge his friend, and the two of us gestured out our grief and rage. But with all the enemies removed from the level, Purple realized that our time was at an end. We all waved and bowed as he ran nobly off a cliff. Blue phased out, and I walked safely to the second bonfire with his the story of friendship and tolerance to tell all who would hear it.
Yeah.
That's very cute.
I just love him running around with this rainbow of boys in tow.
Yeah, the Rainbow Boys. The do you follow Kevin from Video Games Hot Dog on Twitter?
Yeah.
So he does those puzzles every day where it's like find a word that matches the set. All of them can end in boys.
Yep.
Like go through the entire thing, everything he does. Like it's just like you can add boys to the end of everything.
Yeah, I it's hard to resist the urge to troll him with that.
Yeah, it just sink boys, bedroom boys. Like boys is becoming one of my favorite suffixes. It's not replacing Yulon. Like Yulon is king.
Yeah.
Boys is prince.
Oh my gosh. Listen to Cool Games Inc. Everything is boys.
Is it? No.
Yep.
I believe it.
Oh man, yeah, no, Kevin, he's Puzzle Theory on Twitter. It's this amazing thing that he does every day, and it's consistently really fun and challenging.
Yeah, he's intimidatingly smart.
Yeah,
he's a great dude. He's super nice, but like man, he is a smarter man than I am.
Yeah,
and that becomes apparent in interacting with him.
Yeah. Oh man, let's see here. Andrew writes. So I just beat a Pontiff Sully, and I emerge into the backyard PvP arena out behind his cathedral, only to see the fog wall go up. I panic. I was really bad at PvP in Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, and while I've actually had a pretty respectable record of victories in Dark Souls 3, sometimes old fears rear their heads. I look around, spot 2 Mound Maker signs, and have this thought. If I summon 2 Mound Makers, maybe they'll fight the invader and each other, and I can scoop victory at the end. It fills me with glee to say that this is exactly how that shit went down. I was cosplaying Kirk, Knight of Thorns, and in the chaos that ensued, I was able to roll and bleed my way to the first triple kill in my PvP history. I've had another great PvP experience since, but I've never felt more devious or accomplished. Praise the Mound.
Go Mound Boys.
The enemy of my enemy of my enemy is the friend of my friend of my friend.
Yeah, very good. John says via contact. My epic session of PvP was during my first excursion into the Duke's archives. I wonder if he means the Grand Archives.
Yes, he does.
It's the Grand Archives. I was like, whoa. The Grand Archive.
You're 3 years too late, buddy.
I had managed to damage the Crystal Sage down to half before he escaped. Then the dreaded invasion message appeared across the screen. I quickly changed my allegiance to the Way of Blue, hoping for help. By the time I waxed my head around the corner, I received that wonderful message of support, but the invader was here. I did enough damage for him to run away right as my buddy arrived. So there we were, 2 warriors chasing down this renegade, dodging thralls dropping from books, the Crystal Sage and Waxhead shooting from across the library, and the most challenging part, the double gargoyles outside on the way to the top level. We had damaged him, but he quickly ran away. We arrived at the 3 Drang Knights, 4v2, terrible odds. My buddy aggroed 3 while I took out the mage. We gradually killed the knight, but I noticed that my buddy kept running away. He must have been out of Estus. I was too. Then I noticed my salvation, an elevator. A bonfire was near. I quickly jumped on. The invader jumped in too, landing on my head, and I clipped right through the elevator floor, falling to my death.
He stomped you through the floor. It's like a Mario victory.
My only consolation was the invader probably didn't get the kill. Later I found out how many shortcuts I had missed while being distracted, meaning this invader made me go through everything twice.
Oh man.
Yeah, this game doesn't know how to handle elevators.
Nope.
It's like you can't have interaction on elevators. It's really weird, which is kind of good because you don't end up with like the Turtles in Time elevator stage kind of mechanic. But nothing really works on elevators.
Yeah, so you run into stuff like this where, you know, for as fun as like that kind of unpredictable stuff can be, like you never want to feel like it's unintentional on the designer's part. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see it being frustrating. It's still like, you know, this is still just a fun story because in the grand scheme of things, no matter. But yeah.
Man, I really can't wait to talk about the Grand Archives, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be I like Grand Archives.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be all right.
Yeah.
That'll be a good one. I mean, I do like that area.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's actually like all areas I like from here on out. There's like some parts that are frustrating, but it's all uphill from here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing I
it's
hate.
all uphill from the literal nadir of the world.
Yeah. It's I mean, up until we get to the boss, it's all good for me.
Right.
You know, and it's so that again, people who don't like the soggy middle of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like Irithyll Dungeon. I like Grand Archives. I like High Wall of Lothric.
Yeah.
So
you know, Irithyll Dungeon. Let's just call Profane Capital like a weird little sub neighborhood of Irithyll Dungeon, and everything will be A-okay.
Profane Capital's awful, but the you know, Irithyll Dungeon's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nice. And we've got one more here. Andrew writes in via contact saying, "Want to write in to tell you guys about my favorite experience while PvPing as a mound maker. My strategy was to put my sign down at the Catacombs of Karthus bonfire, and once summoned, make a mad dash to the rope bridge just before Volnir. Once I got far enough across to trigger the skeleton horde, I run back in an attempt to bring the horde to the host. If I was lucky, they had already opened the shortcut, and it was a lot easier. If not, then I had to try to go the long way around through the winding passage and hope that I didn't lose too many of my followers. If I was really lucky, they would meet up with the horde at the same time Sorig invaded. Even though I only had about a 50% success rate, since the horde was just as likely to kill me as the host, it was always a fun time, especially if I could lure the host into getting smashed by the bone ball." Yeah. I haven't done too much, so I didn't get a lot of bites when I was doing PvP in the Catacombs. I could see that being fun. Andrew makes it sound like a really good time, specifically with that kind of like setup and run up.
Yeah. I mean, we got a couple stories from the Catacombs that made it sound good. I didn't do the thing that I did in Dark Souls 1 where I like systematically invaded everywhere. Just because my character's already passed that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, past those sections. I didn't make a new character for it because I, you know, just didn't want to. But this does feel like, because of that, what we talked about with that kind of de-emphasizing of invading, you know, most of the PvP I see, almost all of it is around those free-for-all zones. So Forest and Pontiff Sullivan, or in like a couple of Fight Club spots.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty rare that I see Fight Club or fighting happen in the Grand Archives or the Catacombs. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it seems like it's just doesn't seem to happen very often there.
Yeah.
You know, and when it does, it tends to be kind of straight, either purple broing or just straight up invasions, which, you know, people are rolling with people when you go in there. Like, it ends up being kind of a gang spank.
Yeah.
Kind of situation.
Don't say gang spank.
That's the term for it, man.
Okay. All right.
I didn't make that up. That's what happens.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds filthier than it is. Sorry. I had a full body physical reaction to the awfulness of that phrase.
I mean, but it's an ugly scene, man. Yeah, spank them gangs. It's because spank, like just a spank, like I've been a naughty boy. Like that's a different kind of spank than what it sounds like. A gang spank definitely sounds like you're twerking it.
Okay.
You know, I think so.
Yeah, twerking it.
Because you've got your host.
Yeah, no, just
and you've got your two phantoms hanging below.
Yeah, people don't realize that it's all in the hips, you know. Yeah.
You got your blue phantoms when you don't actually torque to release. Thanks everybody.
What did we just do?
Thanks everybody for your stories. I really do appreciate them.
Yeah.
If you have any other PvP stories, go ahead and send them in. They might end up sneaking into a wrap-up episode, or when we're light on responses later on.
Yep. The funnier and more novel, the better.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's the case for all of your responses. If you have things to say about the Irithyll Dungeon / the Profaned Capital, go ahead and hit us up at Duckfeed.tv /contact.
If you have nothing to say about those, how about the Consumed King's Garden or the Untended Graves? We're taking those too.
Yes. If you like the show, you can rate and review it on iTunes. That's very kind. You can also support us on Patreon if you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. That is the most concrete way you can support us. And even a little bit of money helps. I say this all the time, but if everybody listening to this gave us $1, we'd be much further along, be able to do a lot of cool shows and everything. It would be a life-changing thing. So just $1, the price of a compact disc per year. You could change our lives.
Yeah.
So
get more stuff.
Yeah, and hear more shows.
Yeah. I think that's just about everything. I don't know if we have any deleted scenes. Gary, I'll leave it up to you. No. This is your edit.
Yeah, do not. So I was listening and it doesn't sound like we do. So thanks everybody, and we will see you again in a week. What should they do, Cole?
I don't know. Just stick around. Mike. We're very happy. Like there's usually some fall off in the middle of the season, so we're just super grateful that people have stuck around. Thank you.
Yeah. Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon